Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that really tries to help you cut through all the noise and get straight to the insights you can actually use.
Yeah, aiming for clarity.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something that, well, I think it touches pretty much everyone.
Mm.
Finding your own personal strength, your groove,
Yeah.
really, in the whole journey of healing and personal growth. Our mission, you could say, is to help you unlock what we're going to call your recovery superpower.
I like that term.
Yeah, it's about those unique cognitive strengths that are already inside you. And the goal isn't just to, put a label on them.
Right. It's more than identification.
It's about showing you how to genuinely leverage these abilities, these innate talents, for a healing journey that feels more authentic, more you.
Instead of, forcing yourself down paths that just don't feel right.
Exactly. Trying to fit that square peg in a round hole, which never works. We've pulled together a pretty fascinating stack of sources for this exploration today.
Yeah, quite a mix.
We've got groundbreaking psychological theories, things on intelligence, decision-making, plus research on habit formation, trauma, the power of human connection. It's a real deep dive.
It covers a lot of ground.
So if you've ever felt like you're just constantly swimming upstream with your personal growth, wondering why certain approaches just don't seem to click for you.
That feeling of resistance.
Yeah, exactly. This deep dive is really designed to illuminate a different way forward, a potentially more powerful path for you,
Helping you stop trying to recover in a way that maybe isn't suited to you.
and start instead leveraging your own innate genius, your unique strengths for healing.
Finding your superpower.
Finding your superpower. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's really unpack this feeling. I think we all know it. Have you ever been faced with a problem or maybe a personal challenge? Perhaps you're navigating a recovery path and you just feel like you're hitting a solid wall, like it just isn't working.
Yeah, that frustrating feeling.
It's like everyone else seems to get a particular method or they thrive on some specific approach. But for you, it just doesn't click. It doesn't resonate.
You feel like you're missing something.
Right. Or maybe you've even been told, this is the right way to learn, or this is the proven path to healing.
The one-size-fits-all approach.
But deep down, it never really felt true to your own experience, did it?
No, it often feels misaligned.
Well, today, we're going to challenge that whole narrow perspective. We're aiming to fundamentally shift our thinking by introducing a truly groundbreaking idea.
Okay.
It comes from the renowned psychologist Howard Gardner, and it's his theory of multiple intelligences.
Gardner, yes, very influential.
It's a real game changer, honestly, because it frees us from that restrictive, often frustrating idea that a single IQ score defines how smart we are, our intellectual worth.
Which can feel so limiting.
Totally. Instead, Gardner opens our eyes to this expansive truth. There are, in fact, many different diverse and equally valid ways to be smart.
It's a much richer picture of human capability.
Exactly. He suggests that while, some people in the traditional intelligence community might focus heavily on the neurological and genetic basis of intelligence.
Like processing speed, nerve conduction.
Right, the nuts and bolts. Things like the speed and flexibility of nerve conduction that often underpin those traditional IQ tests measuring how fast your brain works. Gardner's approach is different. He calls it tender-minded.
Which sounds gentle, but what does he mean by that?
Well, it's not a criticism. It means he focuses more on the practical, observable ways intelligence actually shows up in culture and everyday life.
How people use their smarts.
Precisely. Rather than just the brain's internal machinery, he acknowledges that the forms intelligence takes are, and I quote, indefinitely and illuminatingly varied in how we humans carry out roles in their culture.
So it's about real-world application.
Yes. And what's really insightful here is that this isn't necessarily a clash between research traditions. It's more like a division of labor, you could say.
Different angles on the same topic.
Exactly. And Gardner's view becomes especially illuminating when we think about later development, how we learn, adapt, and thrive as we grow and interact with the world.
How intelligence unfolds over time and through experience.
That's it.
And what's truly fascinating here, building on that, is how intelligence isn't this static, fixed thing, especially as we grow beyond infancy.
Right, it develops.
Gardner talks about how, after that first year or so of life, an intelligence intermeshes increasingly with various symbolic functions and systems.
Okay, what does intermeshes with symbolic functions mean in plain terms?
It means our environment, our culture, the opportunities we get, they actively shape and refine our natural talents, our aptitudes. We learn through language, symbols, cultural tools.
So it's nature and nurture interacting.
Absolutely. Without that cultural shaping, Gardner suggests intelligence might unfold in a more pure or raw form.
Raw form.
Yeah, he notes this might be observed in, say, brain-injured or autistic individuals who might engage with those symbolic systems differently or less conventionally.
Interesting.
It really highlights this dynamic interplay, doesn't it, between our innate capacities and the world around us, how our experiences literally sculpt our potential.
So our environment really matters in how our smartness shows up.
Critically. So let's dive into some of the key intelligences Gardner identified, drawing from the sources you mentioned.
Great, let's hear them.
First up, we have linguistic intelligence. This is basically the ability to use language effectively, speaking, writing, understanding.
Word smarts.
Pretty much. Gardner points out how core syntactic and phonological aspects come to express certain kinds of meaning.
Okay, syntactic is sentence structure, phonological is sounds.
Exactly. Think about how a simple string of words describes an agent carrying out an action that has consequences, like the dog chased the cat. Basic but meaningful.
Right. Cause and effect in words.
Or how language can create certain kinds of effect, like weaving a scary aura into a story just through word choice and how you put sentences together.
Yeah, the power of description.
But it's not just for stories or arguments. Language can also be a really practical aid in teaching an individual some bodily process, like a dance, or some mathematical process.
So you can explain how to do something physically or abstractly using words.
Precisely. It's incredibly versatile, a really powerful form of intelligence.
Okay, what's next?
Then there's logical mathematical intelligence. This is your capacity for logical reasoning, problem-solving, abstract thought.
Number smarts, logic smarts.
That's a good way to put it. Gardner calls it a family of interrelated competences, and he sees the notion of counting as a really fundamental basis for a lot of this.
Starting with the basics.
He even connects it to the foundational work of Jean Piaget, the famous developmental psychologist.
Piaget, stages of development.
Right. Piaget helped us understand how kids build knowledge and kind of integrate these logical links. It's all about seeing patterns, making deductions, thinking systematically.
Got it. Makes sense.
Musical intelligence is another distinct area. This covers skill in performance, composition, appreciating musical patterns.
Being good with music.
Essentially, yes. Gardner notes that the core aspects of musical intelligence, pitch and rhythm, are marshaled by the symbolic aspects of music. Things like expression, this is a happy piece, or reference, this alludes to an earlier section of the song.
So music communicates feelings and ideas without words.
Exactly. It's a profound language all its own. It often bypasses the need for words entirely.
Yeah, music can hit you directly.
Definitely. And then we have spatial intelligence. This is the ability to perceive the visual spatial world accurately.
Seeing things in your mind's eye, shapes, spaces.
Yes, and also being able to perform transformations on those perceptions, like mentally rotating an object or navigating a complex space.
Okay.
The sources you mentioned touch upon work by Nelson Butters and others who studied visual spatial difficulties. They looked at challenges that right hemisphere injured patients have in making drawings, for example.
So it gives clues about brain areas involved.
Yeah, exactly. It shows us specific brain regions seem crucial for this type of intelligence. And it's not just about art, right? It's fundamental for navigation, design, understanding how objects relate in space, even visualizing solutions to problems.
Like packing a car trunk efficiently.
Yes, that too. Now, Gardner actually identifies several more intelligences in his full theory.
But these give us a good flavor.
They do. These examples are really well supported by the texts we looked at, and they serve our purpose today perfectly. To illustrate vividly that intelligence isn't just one thing, it's not monolithic.
It's like a palette.
Exactly. A rich, diverse landscape of distinct capabilities, each with its own unique way of processing the world and interacting with it. Recognizing this diversity is really the first crucial step toward understanding your own authentic path, your own strength.
Finding what your specific kind of smart looks like.
Precisely.
That's such a powerful way to frame it. Intelligence is this rich, diverse landscape. And, that leads us perfectly into our next big topic. Okay. Because now that we understand we're all smart in these different fascinating ways, let's talk about something that's truly universal. Something that affects all of us, no matter what our particular intelligence profile looks like.
Something we all experience.
Exactly. Cognitive dissonance.
Hmm.
What exactly is it? Okay, let's dive into Leon Festinger's theory here.
A classic in social psychology.
It really is. He describes cognitive dissonance as this fundamental human experience. He calls it an unavoidable outcome of decision-making.
Unavoidable.
Yeah. And a psychological discomfort that pops up when beliefs contradict actions or each other.
That internal clash.
Think about that feeling, that unease, right? That nagging sense when you've maybe done something that goes against what you truly believe.
Or when two things you believe just don't fit together.
Yes. And it's not just a minor annoyance. Festinger argues it's a powerful internal alarm system. It's signaling inconsistency inside your mind.
Like a mental check engine light.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And what happens when that alarm goes off? We are strongly motivated to reduce that dissonance, to somehow restore a sense of harmony.
We want that uncomfortable feeling to go away.
It's almost instinctual, this drive to bring our inner world back into alignment, to create a coherent sense of self and reality again.
Yeah.
We need things to make sense internally.
So it really pushes us towards change, or at least towards reducing that tension.
Right, which then raises the big question, how exactly do we try to restore that harmony? How do we reduce that discomfort?
What are the strategies?
Festinger's theory outlines several ways people do this, often both consciously and unconsciously, to try and alleviate that psychological discomfort.
Okay, let's hear them.
Well, one very common tactic is changing cognition about alternatives.
Changing how we think about the options.
Yeah. We often mitigate dissonance by emphasizing the positives of the chosen alternative and minimizing the negatives of the rejected one.
Justifying our choices after the fact. Exactly. Imagine you just bought, say, an expensive new phone. To reduce any buyer's remorse, that little nagging doubt, you might find yourself focusing on all its amazing features, how sleek it is, and kind of ignoring the high price tag, while also actively downplaying any cool features of the phone you didn't buy.
Making your choice look even better in hindsight.
Precisely. It's our mind's way of justifying the decision, making us feel better about it by selectively focusing on the good stuff about what we picked and the not so good stuff about what we left behind.
We convince ourselves we made the right call.
We do. Another strategy is establishing cognitive overlap.
Overlap, how does that work?
This involves finding commonality between the chosen and unchosen alternatives. Basically, looking for similarities.
Okay.
This helps create a more cohesive understanding of the decision's context. For instance, if you chose one career path over another, maybe one that seems quite different.
Yeah.
You might reduce dissonance by focusing on the transferable skills or maybe the shared values between the two paths. It makes the decision feel less like this dramatic either sacrifice.
And more variations on a theme.
Exactly. By highlighting those shared features, we make the choice feel less stark, less like a huge contrast, and that reduces the internal tension.
Makes sense. What else?
Individuals might also engage in a change of private opinion.
So, actually changing what you believe.
Potentially, yes. Festinger suggests people might shift their private beliefs to align with public compliance, especially when the external pressures are mild.
So if you go along with something publicly, you might start to believe it privately.
Under the right conditions, yes. Think about a situation where maybe you initially disagree with what a group thinks, but the pressure to conform isn't overwhelming. If you express agreement publicly, maybe just to fit in. Over time, you might actually start to genuinely adopt that opinion as your own. Your internal belief shifts to match your outward behavior to reduce that dissonance.
Wow.
We also see the magnification of rewards or punishments.
Making the stakes seem higher?
Kind of. By enhancing the perceived value of what you gained, or maybe the severity of what you avoided, individuals can decrease dissonance.
How so?
If you made a really difficult choice, convincing yourself afterwards that the reward was huge, or that the alternative you rejected would have been absolutely terrible.
Right.
That helps justify the effort or the sacrifice involved, and it reduces any lingering discomfort. It's like telling yourself, phew, I really dodged a bullet there, or this was so worth it.
Boosting the outcome to match the effort.
Exactly. And very significantly, Festinger explicitly notes the powerful role of social support.
Getting backup from others.
Yes. He says social groups serve as a valuable resource for reducing cognitive dissonance. Why? because individuals often seek confirmation of their beliefs from others.
We look for people who agree with us.
We do, and that facilitates the addition of consonant cognitive elements, basically adding new beliefs or information that supports our choice or viewpoint.
So when friends or family validate our choices,
It powerfully reinforces our beliefs, eases that internal conflict, and makes our chosen path feel much more right and secure. Social validation is a huge dissonance reducer.
yeah, that feels true. We like agreement.
Definitely. Now, a particularly interesting aspect Festinger studied is forced compliance.
Being made to do something against your beliefs.
Exactly. Acting against your own beliefs because of some external pressure. His work shows that under certain conditions, especially when that external pressure is relatively mild, this can actually lead to an actual change of private opinion.
Really? Even if you're forced.
Yes, particularly if there are some perceived benefits that come along with the compliance, or if subsequent arguments or persuasion reinforce the public behavior.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you're subtly encouraged, maybe not forced, but strongly nudged, to try a new recovery method you're skeptical about. If you try it, and maybe you notice some small, unexpected benefits, you might genuinely start to believe in it more, even if you were initially just complying. Your belief shifts to align with the behavior and the outcome.
Okay. The mild pressure is key.
It seems to be, because, conversely, if the reward or punishment is substantial, Festinger found it often leads to compliance with little dissonance.
Why less dissonance then?
Because the external pressure is so obvious and overwhelming. You know exactly why you're doing it, to get the big reward or avoid the big punishment. That external reason becomes the primary motivator, not some internal belief change. So there's less internal conflict about why you're doing it.
You can easily justify it to yourself. I'm just doing this because I have to.
Precisely. The external justification is sufficient.
So, okay, bringing this all together, what does this mean for you, the listener, in your journey of personal growth, healing, whatever path you're on?
Well, here's the crucial link. If your chosen recovery path, or even just a method of learning or self-improvement you're trying, if it creates significant internal dissonance because it's constantly fighting against your natural cognitive strengths, what we're calling your unique genius or recovery superpower.
If it feels fundamentally wrong for you.
Exactly. It will be much harder to sustain and much harder to genuinely integrate into your life. It's like trying to force that square peg into the round hole again.
The resistance will be constant.
Constant resistance, constant discomfort. It will drain your energy, your motivation. This really highlights the crucial need to align your efforts with your true nature, with your innate abilities.
Work with your strengths, not against them.
Yes. When you do that, you reduce that internal friction, that dissonance. The path forward feels more natural, more sustainable, and ultimately much more likely to be successful.
Because it fits you.
Because it fits you.
That is such a crucial connection, how fighting against our natural strengths just creates that draining dissonance. And honestly, this is where it gets really exciting.
Yeah, moving to application.
Exactly. Now that we've explored this diverse spectrum of human intelligences, and we understand the powerful, sometimes really subtle pull of cognitive dissonance, it's time to put it all together.
Making it practical.
This section is all about how you can actually leverage your specific, authentic strengths, find that personal genius for a more effective and genuinely aligned journey of healing or growth.
Tailoring the approach.
Right. This isn't about trying to fit into some predefined mold that someone else created. It's about recognizing, validating, and really amplifying what truly works for you. We're talking about finding and activating your unique recovery superpower.
Okay, let's break it down by intelligence type. Let's start with linguistic intelligence, the narrative arc of healing.
For the word smart folks.
Exactly. For individuals whose personal genius really lies in language, healing often takes this profound form of narrative and verbal processing. You know, Oliver Sacks.
The neurologist wrote fascinating books.
Yes. He had this deep insight into the human mind. He observed that each of us constructs and lives a narrative, and that this narrative is us, our identities.
Our life story defines us.
In a very real way. And he goes on to say that recovery often requires that we recollect ourselves, recollect the inner drama, the narrative of ourselves.
So retelling our story is part of healing.
For linguistically gifted individuals, shaping this narrative, understanding it, maybe even rewriting parts of it is paramount. It's a core part of the process.
So how does that look in practice?
Well, this deep understanding of language isn't just for communicating outwardly. It becomes a powerful tool for healing internally. You might find yourself naturally drawn to therapy that involves narrative reconstruction.
Where you actively work to understand and reframe your life story.
Precisely. Or perhaps extensive journaling feels right for you, a place where you can precisely articulate your thoughts, feelings, experiences.
Getting it all out on paper.
And in doing so, you start to master your internal dialogue. You can maybe identify nuanced cognitive distortions, those unhelpful thought patterns, just by writing them down and looking at them.
Seeing them clearly.
It's about using language to dissect and understand your own emotional landscape. Jean Piaget's work, remember him?
Yeah, kids' development.
His work on verbal explanation showed how social thinking, using language to explain things, helps move children towards objectivity.
Towards seeing things more clearly.
Yes, and for adults with this strength, articulating feelings, experiences, connecting the dots verbally, this happened, which led to that feeling, which caused this action, that can be an incredibly powerful healing tool. It helps gain perspective and clarity just by putting things into words.
Talking it through, literally.
Literally. And think about Steven Pinker's ideas, universal grammar, the human language instinct. He suggests language allows for notable speed of observational learning and retention in humans.
We learn fast through language.
Especially through what Bandura called verbal coding of modeled events. Basically, putting what we see or learn into words helps us lock it in.
So describing new coping strategies helps you learn them.
Exactly. You can rapidly process and internalize new ways of dealing with things simply by putting them into words, describing them, explaining them, maybe even teaching them to yourself verbally.
Like giving yourself instructions.
Or analyzing past events verbally to understand them better, maybe reframing them. You could even create personal metaphors that profoundly shift your perspective on your healing journey.
Using language creatively for yourself.
Yes, using the precision of language almost like a surgical tool for self-understanding and change. So if this resonates, if language feels like your authentic path,
Lean into it.
lean into it. Engage in dialogues where you effectively communicate her needs, as the book Attached mentions in the context of relationships, but it applies here too. Or become the author of your own healing story through the power of your words. Journal, talk, analyze, reframe. Use your linguistic superpower.
That's really compelling. Language is a tool for self-surgery. Okay, so if words aren't necessarily your primary tool, what about, well, the incredible strength we often find in each other?
Moving to the social realm.
Let's talk about interpersonal intelligence,
Yeah.
the power of connection. If you're a people person, right, someone who genuinely thrives on social interaction, who understands the nuances of human relationships.
You get energy from being with others.
Exactly. Then your recovery is likely truly and deeply found in connection. Remember Festinger's point.
About social support reducing dissonance.
Yes. Social groups serve as a valuable resource for reducing cognitive dissonance. This isn't just a nice side benefit. It's a fundamental psychological mechanism for comfort, stability, getting that validation that helps resolve internal conflict.
Feeling understood and accepted.
Right. And the authors of Attached, that book on relationship styles,
Yeah, attachment theory.
they emphasize that when your need for intimacy is met and reciprocated by your partner, your satisfaction level will rise. Conversely, they say incongruent intimacy needs usually translate into substantially lower satisfaction.
When needs don't match up, it causes problems.
And they go further, suggesting that true love, from an evolutionary perspective, actually means peace of mind, which is a stark contrast to the anxious, insecure, and obsessive feelings you get when your attachment system is all fired up and insecure.
So secure connection brings calm.
Exactly. And for someone with this interpersonal strengths, learning to effectively communicate her needs is absolutely central to navigating relationships securely and finding that peace. You intuitively understand that give and take of connection.
You're attuned to relational dynamics.
Yes. And Martin Seligman, positive psychology expert,
Mhm.
he defines social resilience as the capacity to foster, engage in, and sustain positive social relationships and to endure and recover from stressors and social isolation.
Being able to bounce back socially.
He calls this the glue that holds groups together and notes it's crucial for rising to challenges. Think about the flip side, the stark warning from Philip Zimbardo's Lucifer effect.
The Stanford prison experiment guy.
Right. He observed how the prisoners obsessed about the vicissitudes of their current situation, just focused inwards on their misery rather than connecting with each other or distancing themselves from their roles.
They became isolated even when physically together.
And even the guards rarely exchanged personal non-prison information. It vividly highlights the destructive power of isolation and how important genuine social interaction is for just maintaining well-being. Someone with strong interpersonal intelligence naturally gravitates away from that kind of isolation.
They seek connection.
So if your natural aptitude is interpersonal connection, give yourself permission to flourish in group settings. Peer support networks, actively building secure attachment relationships, seeking out mentors.
Finding your tribe.
Finding your tribe. You might find immense healing, like Viktor Frankl's former prisoners did when they started logotherapy groups, helping others find meaning through shared experience, and in doing so, solidifying their own recovery.
Helping others helps yourself.
Absolutely. Your healing gets amplified through that active giving and receiving connection. You leverage social validation as a core coping mechanism, you find collective purpose. This strength allows you to intuitively navigate the complex dance of human interaction, building this web of support that's both resilient and deeply satisfying. Your superpower is people.
Connection as the pathway. Okay, building on that, let's connect this to the bigger picture again. For those whose strength lies in logical mathematical intelligence, the path to healing often looks quite different. It's found in understanding the why and the how.
The analysts, the strategists.
Exactly. For you, recovery might manifest through this process of rigorous analysis and strategic planning, almost like a scientist approaching a complex problem.
Seeing healing as a puzzle to solve.
In a way, yes. A complex but potentially solvable equation. Remember, Festinger strategies for reducing dissonance.
Yeah, changing thoughts, finding overlap.
Those are inherently logical processes, aren't they? They involve dissecting situations, weighing options, reframing perspectives, all to achieve internal consistency and clarity.
Making things make logical sense.
Right, and for someone with this strength, that's not just about feeling better. It's about building a robust, coherent understanding that can actually withstand challenges because you've logically worked through all the different components.
It feels solid because it's reasoned out.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And James Clear's Atomic Habits, that book provides a really practical blueprint for leveraging this natural aptitude.
How so?
He introduces these highly systematic ways to design your environment and build new routines that directly appeal to a logical mind.
Like his habit formulas.
Exactly. Using things like implementation intentions, that specific formula. I will behavior at time and location, and habit stacking. After I current habit, I will new habit.
Very structured.
Very structured. These allow you to devise bespoke systematic protocols for, say, emotional regulation. You can methodically break down a huge recovery goal into tiny, manageable, predictable steps. It's very logical.
Step-by-step progress.
And Clear also notes that our expectations determine our satisfaction. How? By shaping the gap between our cravings and our rewards.
Okay.
This offers a cognitive framework, a logical way, to manage your progress and maintain motivation. By understanding how your perception of the outcome impacts your satisfaction, you can logically adjust your expectations to ensure a sustainable path. You're not just hoping for the best, you're managing the process.
Managing expectations logically.
Yes. And Albert Bandura's work further emphasizes this logical interpretation of the world. He highlights that humans do not simply respond to stimuli, they interpret them.
We think about things before reacting.
Or at least we can. Stimuli influence the likelihood of particular behaviors through their predictive function, rather than being automatic triggers. This underscores the importance, for a logical thinker, of analyzing your environment and your reactions to predict and influence outcomes effectively.
Understanding triggers and responses.
You're not just reacting, you're actively interpreting and strategizing based on that interpretation. Bandura also notes that observational learning by watching others, is especially true if the tasks depend more heavily on conceptual than on manual skills.
So understanding the why helps you learn faster.
For logical thinkers, often yes. Understanding the underlying principles can really accelerate learning. So if you identify as a logical thinker, your authentic path to healing is likely going to involve dissecting information, understanding the underlying science of your challenges,
Researching, analyzing.
creating structured plans, meticulously tracking your progress, and logically problem-solving obstacles as they pop up. You can maybe identify the logical fallacies in your own self-sabotaging thoughts.
Debunking your own negative thinking.
Exactly. And you can optimize your environment for recovery with almost scientific precision. This analytical, systematic approach becomes your most potent tool for sustained growth and well-being. Your superpower is logic and strategy.
Using reason as your guide. That sense of precision and strategic planning is really powerful. Now let's shift gears a bit. Let's move to kinesthetic intelligence. embodied healing and action.
Getting physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who connect deeply with your body, who learn through movement, process things through physical experience, your recovery path often involves actively re-engaging with your physical self.
Body awareness.
Right. Oliver Sacks, again, he wrote about this powerful case of Christina. She lost her proprioception.
That sense of where your body parts are without looking.
Exactly. Her body's eyes, Sacks called it. And she had to consciously use vision, use my eyes, just to know where her limbs were and to move.
Yeah.
She essentially had to become a sort of physiologist for herself.
Wow. Imagine having to think about every single movement.
It beautifully illustrates that profound and often overlooked connection between physical sensation and our very sense of self. So recovery in this context can involve consciously rebuilding and strengthening that bodily connection, making the implicit experience of your body explicit and conscious again.
Tuning back into physical signals.
Yes. And Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow.
Being in the zone.
Right. He notes that flow, that state of complete immersion and energized focus, can often arise from strenuous physical exertion where action follows action seamlessly.
Like with athletes or dancers.
Exactly. And interestingly, he observed that survivors of extreme physical ordeals like polar explorers or concentration camp inmates often demonstrated this unself-conscious self-assurance, an implicit belief that their destiny was in their hands, which was frequently expressed through their ability to just function within the environment harmoniously.
A kind of embodied resilience.
It suggests a deep embodied resilience that could be cultivated through movement and physical engagement. For you, if this is your strength, physically working through emotional blockages can be incredibly freeing, moving the energy.
Releasing things physically.
And Ivan Pavlov's work, the dogs and bells guy.
Conditioned reflexes.
Right. His work on conditioned reflexes and motor reactions
Yeah.
shows us how the body learns and responds to stimuli, even at a really fundamental level.
Body learning patterns.
And this understanding can be leveraged. We can use it to consciously repattern physical responses for healing. Maybe by developing differentiation of tactile stimuli, literally learning to distinguish different physical sensations and what emotions they might be linked to.
Becoming more sensitive to body cues.
Or by gaining insight into the functional peculiarities of the central nervous system, understanding how your specific nervous system reacts. This means you can consciously train your body to respond differently to stress or triggers, using movement as a deliberate form of repatterning.
Like somatic therapies.
Exactly. So, if your natural aptitude lies in kinesthetic intelligence, your recovery may profoundly benefit from things like physical therapies, mindful movement practices, yoga, tai chi, dance, regular exercise, maybe even techniques like EMDR, which involves directed eye movements to help process trauma.
Using the body to heal the mind.
These actions help you re-embody yourself, restore a sense of control, process deep emotional and psychological experiences through the physical realm, and literally move towards healing. Your superpower is movement and physical awareness.
Action as the antidote. Okay, following on from the physical, let's consider musical intelligence, harmonic healing, and emotional release.
For the musically inclined.
Yes, here we find a profound and often very direct pathway for emotional processing. Gardner, remember, highlighted how music directly taps into expression. This is a happy piece. And reference alludes to an earlier section of the song.
It speaks emotion directly.
It really does. It's a language of emotion that often bypasses our verbal filters, our analytical minds. It provides a direct line to our inner states, allowing for a unique form of communication and release.
Music can just hit you, bypass the thinking brain.
Absolutely. And Oliver Sacks, again, he beautifully illustrates music's power with his descriptions of epileptic seizures that could evoke these intensely vivid hallucinations of tunes.
Hearing music that wasn't there.
Yes, but crucially accompanied by the emotions which accompanied the original experience. He tells of a patient who would hear specific songs like Easter Parade or Goodnight Sweet Jesus, and these tunes would bring back a specific church experience from her past, complete with the feelings.
Wow. Music unlocking deep memories and emotions.
It demonstrates music's unique capacity to access and process deep emotional memories, sometimes with an intensity and detail that far exceeds our normal recall. So for you, if music is your strength, it's not just background noise.
It's a tool.
It's a key to your emotional vault. It can help you confront, understand, and release long-held feelings, perhaps feelings you can't even put into words.
Accessing the nonverbal emotional stuff.
Exactly. And Sigmund Freud, in Civilization and Its Discontents, he discussed this idea of sublimation of the drives.
Channeling basic urges into higher things.
Sort of. He talked about how one can heighten the pleasure derived from mental and intellectual work, like the artist's joy in creating. Music, he suggested, can provide this finer and higher satisfaction. It offers a pathway to manage difficult emotions, transforming raw, sometimes destructive, drives into something more refined, meaningful, and deeply satisfying.
So creating or engaging with music can be healing.
It provides a creative outlet, a way to process emotional turmoil and find catharsis. So if music is your unique strength, your superpower, use it deliberately.
Wow.
Well, this might involve engaging in actual music therapy or learning to play an instrument to channel frustration or joy, maybe composing your own melodies to express unspoken feelings.
Or even just listening intentionally.
Absolutely. Simply curating playlists that help you navigate different emotional states, regulate your mood, maybe even process trauma in a deeply resonant, harmonic way. You can use rhythm and melody almost like a guide for your emotional landscape, finding genuine emotional release and regulation through sound.
Your superpower is harmony and rhythm. That's a beautiful description. Music is a guide. Okay, next up, let's turn to something maybe a bit more philosophical. Existential self-reflective intelligence. Finding your meaning.
The big picture thinkers.
Exactly. For those whose natural aptitude lies in pondering the big questions, why are we here? What's the purpose of suffering? How do I fit in? Your recovery journey is deeply, deeply intertwined with meaning making.
It has to make sense on a deeper level.
Yes, you're driven by this need to understand the why of your struggles and the what for of your healing. Viktor Frankl.
Man's search for meaning.
The very one. Drawing from his harrowing experiences in concentration camps, he powerfully demonstrated the human ability to develop inner spiritual life and find meaning, even in the face of absolutely immense suffering.
Finding purpose, even in the worst conditions.
His personal philosophy, which is just incredible, my neck is broken but it won't break my life, is such a testament to this profound, indomitable strength of spirit. For you, if this resonates, finding this internal meaning isn't just comforting.
It's essential.
It's literally the pathway to survival and growth.
Yeah.
And Abraham Maslow, known for his hierarchy of needs,
Self-actualization at the top.
he noted that the gratification of the cognitive impulses, the drive to know and understand, is subjectively satisfying and yields end experience. He said it's often a bright, happy, emotional spot in any person's life.
The joy of insight, the aha moment.
Exactly. That speaks to the deep satisfaction found in understanding, insight, and purpose, those moments that fuel your journey. And Ernest Becker, another deep thinker.
The denial of death.
Right. He suggests that one's whole life is a style or a scenario with which one tries to deny oblivion and to extend oneself beyond death in symbolic ways.
Creating meaning to transcend mortality.
This inherent drive to create meaning, to craft a legacy, even a symbolic one, is a powerful underlying force for personal recovery and resilience, especially for those with this particular existential strength.
Tapping into that drive for meaning.
And Jordan Peterson, in Maps of Meaning, talks about the revolutionary idea that our human experience can actually be improved by voluntary alteration in individual human attitude and action.
Taking responsibility for change.
He describes this as the myth of the hero, which involves consciously facing the dangerous and promising unknown, changing what we think is important, and reconsidering the ideal nature of the future. It's about actively shaping your path.
Confronting chaos and creating order.
Which resonates deeply with Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the attainment of the self, by integrating those paired opposites within us, becoming whole, finding an authentic identity.
Integrating the shadow, all parts of the self.
So if your strength really lies in this kind of existential reflection, your recovery will flourish as you define your ultimate purpose, as you construct a compelling life narrative that speaks to your core values.
Exploring those philosophical questions about suffering, resilience.
And actively shaping your values and beliefs in alignment with your deepest convictions. This path is about creating a life that feels profoundly meaningful to you. Your superpower is the search for meaning itself.
Purpose as the driving force. And finally, let's look inward. Intrapersonal intelligence. Mastering your inner world.
Understanding yourself.
Precisely. For individuals strong in this intelligence, recovery is truly an inside job. It focuses on deep self-awareness, self-management, cultivating a robust inner landscape.
Knowing your own thoughts, feelings, motivations.
Exactly. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset is absolutely fundamental here.
Growth versus fixed mindset, yeah.
Yeah. She emphasizes that praising the process children engage in their hard work, strategies, focus, perseverance can foster a growth mindset. Why is that important? Because that approach encourages trying new strategies when the one you are using isn't working.
It builds resilience, willingness to adapt.
Exactly. It fosters resilience and continuous learning by reframing challenges not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and adjust. Conversely, a fixed mindset, believing your abilities are set in stone, can lead to a fear of not being smart and a real reluctance to take on challenges.
Which obviously hinders recovery, keeps you stuck.
Totally. Daniel Goleman, famous for his work on emotional intelligence.
Phew.
Right. He highlights emotional intelligence as comprising core emotional and social skills for life, which are crucial for adaptation and navigating our internal landscapes with greater skill, understanding and managing your own emotions.
Being smart about feelings.
And Albert Bandura, again, he discussed self-managed reinforcement as a personal source of influence that partly determines how people behave. We can reward ourselves, motivate ourselves internally.
Self-motivation.
But, and this is critical, he notes that these self-evaluative influences do not operate unless activated.
Meaning you have to consciously choose to use them.
Yes. It requires conscious effort and a developed interpersonal awareness to actually engage our inner resources and make deliberate choices for healing. You have the ability to finely tune your internal mechanisms, but you have to turn the key.
It doesn't just happen automatically.
Right. And Susan Cain's work on introverts.
Quiet.
Yes. It highlights their different learning style, often characterized by one or two deep interests, and an intensity that she says is a prerequisite to talent development.
So understanding your own temperament is key.
Absolutely. It emphasizes the importance of understanding and honoring your unique personality traits in your journey, rather than trying to force yourself to be someone you're not. And similarly, for those maybe struggling with an anxious attachment style, the attached authors advise to acknowledge and accept your true relationship needs, and crucially, to believe that they are legitimate.
Self-acceptance, self-compassion.
Key components of interpersonal mastery. So if interpersonal strength is your unique genius, your healing will thrive through deep self-awareness, cultivating a precise growth mindset specifically for your internal dialogue.
Watching yourself talk.
Practicing self-compassion, understanding your emotional triggers with remarkable clarity, and consciously choosing to activate self-regulating behaviors that are tailored to your unique personality.
Customizing your coping strategies.
Exactly. Using tools like James Clear's habit scorecard could be a very practical starting point just to become aware of them, aware of your patterns, your strengths, your triggers. And from that awareness, you can begin to purposefully shape your inner world for profound and lasting recovery.
Devising sophisticated self-regulation strategies.
Activating dormant internal resources, allowing your healing to be a truly self-directed process. Your superpower is self-knowledge and self-mastery.
Understanding the inner landscape. Wow. Those insights into leveraging our unique abilities, finding those superpowers, it's incredibly empowering. Really is.
Yeah, it offers concrete paths forward.
But, and there's often a but, isn't there? Even when you've done the work, maybe you've identified your authentic path, that unique strength. There are often external pressures or maybe internal patterns that can subtly suppress it.
Roadblocks.
Yeah, making it incredibly difficult to actually leverage those natural abilities. We often operate under these invisible forces, influences that subtly or sometimes not so subtly push us away from our most authentic and effective path.
Things that get in the way.
Exactly. And it's crucial to be aware of these obstacles.
Absolutely. So let's look at external control and its impact. Sometimes that suppression comes from forces entirely outside ourselves.
Environment, relationships.
Environments or relationships that just don't allow our unique genius to flourish. B.F. Skinner, the behaviorist.
Reinforcement, punishment.
Right. In Beyond Freedom and Dignity, he described how we attempt to gain credit by disguising or concealing control. People might use counterfeit reinforcers, like simulated approval and affection, to manipulate behavior.
Fake praise to get you to do something.
Essentially. And he warns that unnecessary control or incommensurate consequences, rewards, or punishments that just don't fit the behavior or the effort can seriously hinder genuine progress.
If the feedback is off, it messes things up.
Right. True. Self-directed progress, Skinner suggests, often requires a revision of the contingencies of reinforcement, basically reevaluating and adjusting the underlying rules and consequences that are shaping our actions and environment.
Changing the system around you.
If you're in a situation where your authentic efforts are consistently met with misaligned or maybe disingenuous feedback, it can really stifle your natural drive, your intrinsic motivation.
Makes you not want to bother.
Exactly. And Robert Cialdini, the influence expert,
Influence, great book.
he further illuminates this with his reference to Stanley Milgram's really unsettling studies on obedience.
The shock experiments. Chilling.
Chilling is right. They showed that ordinary people were shockingly willing to deliver continued, intense, and dangerous levels of shock to another person simply when it is their job, because someone in authority told them to.
Just following orders, overriding their own feelings.
It dramatically illustrates how powerful compliance strategies and perceived authority can be, overriding our personal judgment, even our moral compass. Cialdini also highlights how small commitments can manipulate a person's self-image.
The foot in the door technique.
Exactly. Getting you to agree to something small makes you see yourself as the kind of person who does that, making you more likely to agree to bigger things later, even if it goes against your better judgment.
Subtle manipulation.
So if you find yourself consistently in environments, maybe a workplace, a family, even a recovery program that demands a specific rigid method, even if it feels fundamentally wrong for you, that kind of external pressure can absolutely suppress your innate strengths and your authentic path.
Making you doubt your own instincts.
Yes. And then there's the extreme end of this, powerfully demonstrated by Philip Zimbardo's Lucifer effect and his examination of the abuses at Abu Ghraib prison.
A very dark example.
Very. Zimbardo starkly reveals how systemic forces, the situation, the power structures, the rules, or lack thereof, can create environments that literally spawned the torture and abuses. It wasn't just bad apples.
The system itself was toxic.
He notes how power determining language use, which in turn creates reality, dehumanizing labels, for instance, and how individuals, both prisoners and guards, often embellish their assigned roles rather than distancing from them. The situation took over.
They got lost in the roles.
This shows how an environment can be so powerfully structured as to completely suppress individual agency and, by extension, any attempt at authentic, self-directed recovery or ethical behavior. In systems like that, people are often denied the basic procedural support they need to be effective or even humane. Zimbardo mentions one guard, Chip Frederick, who needed clear guidelines but was essentially told he was on his own without any support system upon which he could rely.
Left adrift in a bad system.
It's the ultimate form of external control, stifling individual capacity and authentic expression.
A really sobering reminder of how powerful those external forces can be. But, it's not just external forces, is it? We often create internal obstacles and misguided striving ourselves. We inadvertently suppress our own unique genius from the inside.
Self-sabotage, in a way.
Kind of. Sigmund Freud warned about this. He talked about the cultural superego, basically. Our internalized ideals, rules, shoulds from society and our upbringing.
Our inner critic, our conscience.
Right. Freud warned that if this superego issues a commandment without asking whether it can be obeyed, if it sets impossible standards,
It demands perfection, maybe.
it could provoke the individual to rebellion or neurosis,
Yeah.
or to make him unhappy. He called this an error because, as Freud observed, the conscious ego only has so much control over our deeper drives, the id, beyond certain limits.
You can't force yourself to be someone you're not, fundamentally.
Exactly. If the ideals we internalize are impossibly rigid or just completely disconnected from our true psychological makeup, our actual strengths and weaknesses, we set ourselves up for constant internal conflict and suffering.
Like having an inner tyrant.
Yeah, an inner tyrant demanding things that are simply not achievable given our innate constitution, forcing us into this battle we just can't win. It suppresses our real strengths because we're chasing an impossible ideal.
Constantly feeling like a failure.
And Alfred Adler, another key psychoanalytic figure.
Focused on inferiority feelings, striving for superiority.
Right. He observes a similar dynamic. He noted that those struggling with an increased inferiority feeling might start pursuing a goal of personal superiority or the semblance of superiority, often looked for at the expense of others. They get pushed onto what Adler called the socially useless side of life.
Striving driven by insecurity, not genuine strength.
Yes. And this kind of striving can lead individuals to maintain his mistaken picture of the world, only with the help of such auxiliary forces and devices as he is withdrawn from critical review. meaning they cling to a flawed view because it protects their ego, pretty much. We can become so invested in a misguided self-image or maybe a flawed recovery strategy that we think makes us look strong or superior that we refuse to critically examine it. We cling to it even when it's causing us pain and preventing genuine growth.
Doubling down on something that isn't working.
This helps explain why sometimes people stick rigidly to methods that are clearly not working for them, rather than trusting their own intuition or innate strengths. Their sense of self-worth gets tangled up in that flawed strategy.
Fear of admitting it's not right for them.
Exactly. So the critical takeaway here, for you listening, is really the importance of cultivating critical thinking about yourself, about the methods you're using.
Questioning assumptions.
Question your assumptions, both about yourself and about the supposed right way to heal or grow. Try to recognize when you might be operating under a form of forced compliance, even if it's self-imposed pressure. Maybe pressure to conform to someone else's idea of recovery or some societal expectation of what healing should look like.
Being honest with yourself about what feels right.
Understand that forcing a recovery method, or any method really, that constantly fights against your innate abilities, your superpower, that is a profound form of internal dissonance. And it leads to exhaustion, frustration, lack of real progress.
It's counterproductive.
By recognizing these potential external and internal obstacles, you empower yourself. You give yourself permission to choose a path that is in genuine alignment with your true personal genius, your authentic strengths.
Which leads to a more natural, sustainable,
And ultimately, a more deeply satisfying journey of personal growth and healing. It's about finding your way.
wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. We've taken a really illuminating exploration, I think, into this fascinating world of multiple intelligences. Connecting Gardner's ideas.
Connecting Gardner's theory to the profound and, let's face it, deeply personal journey of recovery and healing. And what we've seen really clearly, I hope, is that there isn't just one way to be smart. There isn't one single right path to well-being.
Not at all. Our human potential is just so rich with diverse talents.
Each offering a unique avenue for growth. Right. It's about recognizing there are many ways to be smart and therefore many valid paths to healing.
Exactly. Your unique cognitive strengths, whether you felt that spark of recognition with linguistic, interpersonal, logical, mathematical, kinesthetic, musical, existential, or intrapersonal intelligence.
Whichever one resonated most.
They aren't just academic concepts from these books. They are your personal innate abilities, your unique toolkit,
Your superpower.
your personal recovery superpower. By truly understanding and then leaning into these natural aptitudes, you can navigate life's challenges, especially those related to healing and personal growth, with much greater authenticity.
And less struggle.
Far less internal resistance, definitely, and significantly more effectiveness. It really boils down to working with your true nature, not constantly fighting against it, allowing your personal genius to actually guide your way.
And remember, this deep dive, it's really just the beginning, isn't it?
Always just scratching the surface.
The mission, really, is for you to continue exploring. Keep asking yourself, what truly resonates with my deepest self? What stood out to you from our conversation today?
What felt familiar?
Yeah. What spark of recognition did you feel for your own unique genius? Your personal recovery superpower. That's the thread to follow. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Erik Erikson, another giant in psychology.
Identity development.
Right. He observed the self-made man and the self-made personality, people who essentially create and adjust their ego identity as they went along, especially in a powerfully changing world like ours. Consider this possibility. Your recovery isn't merely about fixing what was broken in the past.
It's more than repair.
It's an ongoing creative act of self-authorship. You are continually shaping your identity right now by purposefully choosing to leverage your unique strengths.
Actively writing your own story.
Exactly. So the question is, how will you continue to write your extraordinary story, embracing the authentic power that already exists within you?